Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. My guests on this episode are Megan Mann and Jay Newman of commercebuild. They join me to discuss the state of e-commerce in the B2B buying experience. This episode is sponsored by commercebuild, and Megan and Jay tell me why the company believes e-commerce has the potential to play a transformational role in businesses today. Younger workers expect to engage differently with sellers, so businesses should be able to accommodate them with better product research, better self-service capabilities, and accurate availability information in their commerce experiences. And Megan and Jay offer their outlook for other B2C trends they think will gather momentum in the B2B space. All right. Well, Jay Newman, Megan Mann, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Jason. Thanks so much. Great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you both. I thought we could just start with a bit of an introduction for both of you for our listeners. Jay, do you want to go first?
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much again for this opportunity to visit about e-commerce and B2B e-commerce. I've been fortunate to have a front row seat to some amazing things that have happened over the years in the industry. One of the coolest things was enabling a B2B portal for Sonic drive-ins to allow their restaurateurs to order or reorder all the slushy mix and everything else. Lots of projects like that. As I said, I've been front row seat to it and now have the honor of being able to lead commercebuild and try to enable ERP-driven companies to have a great e-commerce presence today in the 21st century.
Excellent. And Megan, welcome.
Hey, Jason. Thank you so much for having us today. We really appreciate it. So I've been in the e-commerce space for the last 16 years. I've sat on the B2B and B2C side. I have my own e-commerce brands that I've launched, my own online marketing courses that I've launched, and it's been such a pleasure working with the commercebuild's e-commerce technology in the ERP space because it's provided me with a lot of different knowledge opportunities where I've been able to learn new things and also be able to take the experiences that I've had in my e-commerce career back into the ERP space, which has been absolutely amazing.
All right. Well, I'm really looking forward to hearing a little more about what you're seeing today and also get a little bit of perspective from all this commerce experience and e-commerce experience. I wanted to start, Jay, with maybe a bit of a view of the trends that you and the commercebuild team are seeing influencing B2B e-commerce today, especially the idea of like sales-driven businesses and those that are really focused on e-commerce that does connect very carefully into ERP workloads.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, love the conversation here. Since we all know of COVID having changed the landscape and really accelerating things of folks going online and buying, it has really happened in an instance that the industry predicted would take another 5 years, and it's happened over a period of 6 months, where there weren't field sales reps that were able to go around. In a lot of instances, customer service reps couldn't go to an office. It was difficult for them to communicate with their customers. And, we look at that as a sales-driven company. And a lot of sales-driven companies today are very much B2B focused. And I'll compare and contrast that to a market-driven company. My teenage daughter loves Kylie Cosmetics. There's only 40 or 50 SKUs. There's a desire to get fast to market. The aspects of supply chain and inventory constraints and pricing pieces aren't significant for them. But a sales-driven company is oftentimes a B2B company, and they still have their reps, but the reps need to find ways to be more efficient, more effective, and find new customers. And we think that e-commerce is perfect for that type of a company. It may look at its sales team as the leading way in which they're able to acquire new customers and generate incremental revenue, and an e-commerce platform just supplements that. A big trend that we're seeing, however, is in the aspect of a B2B company that is ERP driven, and that's why we come back to the Dynamics 365 community and where we're at. ERP driven companies may have a sales team, may have a customer service team, but their center of the universe surrounds their ERP. And the ERP being a single source of truth, meaning there isn't a secondary database, like at Kylie Cosmetics using Shopify, the database for the company and inventory is inside of Shopify. However, an ERP-driven e-commerce company, the single source of truth is the ERP, and everything hinges off of that. So what we try to do is take the best of both worlds, the opportunity to have a great shopping experience for a company that may be selling cosmetics on a wholesale level and perhaps on a retail level, but more importantly is enabling success for the small and medium business and allow them to be competitive. We think now's the time that all companies should consider an online presence. Unfortunately, only 1 in 4 companies in the small and medium business space really has a store or a way to interact with their customers. So a trend that we're focused upon is educating and making sure that all companies think of how they can interact digitally with their customers around the clock, as opposed to just waiting for the phone to ring or an email to come in.
Yeah, interesting. And, you mentioned that gap that still exists. So many companies that probably don't have a real e-commerce presence, haven't made that part of their strategy so far when they are, like you said, e-commerce, ERP-centric. But a lot, I think, have also perhaps older e-commerce systems or maybe stories of older efforts to implement e-commerce that either failed or were only partially successful. Megan, what do you hear from companies that have gone through those kinds of experiences and what's maybe holding them back today?
I think there's a variety of fears holding these companies back. One, I think, is you've got maybe a smaller mom and pop shop, and they've always done it this way and it's always worked, so why change it? And so they're kind of afraid of the technology changes, and they're afraid of making a change and trying to be competitive. And so they're also maybe concerned that these projects are going to be expensive and that they're going to require a lot of specialized resources, which they can, depending upon the technology that they select. So oftentimes they might think that it's a project that they could do on their own. There's certain technologies that are plug and play that can allow for that. And really, at the end of the day, though, I think a lot of companies also think that their website needs to be perfect before they can launch it to their customers. And so I think a lot of these fears and these misconceptions really either hold people back from starting an e-commerce project, or it takes them midway through an e-commerce project before they can launch. I know for me personally and my e-commerce experiences, I had this idea that I wanted my store to be perfect. I wanted my photos to be perfect. I wanted the brand story to be perfect. And in reality, all this time was wasted by me just not launching the store and starting to sell and being able to get customer input and be able to understand how the web store was performing or changes that I could make to optimize it. And so that can lead to a lot of incremental revenue loss. And so I think for these businesses, the best thing that you can do is just jump in. I think you can find the right e-commerce provider that's going to help you, that's going to be within your budget, that's going to have the support and resources that you need in order to launch. But the reality is, like Jay said, you just got to get in there and get it going. You need to stay competitive in this space. And one of the best ways to do that is to just get the project going and get started and make sure that you're using a technology that's supporting your requirements and that's going to be within your budget constraints as well.
Yeah, and that actually gives me a nice segue to the next topic I wanted to raise, because I know commercebuild has been doing some thinking about younger workers and how younger people engage with sellers, and obviously how that then translates to sort of the world of digital commerce. Your team's done some work on that. You've done some writing and presented on this topic. What are some of the ways that you're seeing e-commerce priorities change?
I think when we look at the B2B buyer nowadays, it's drastically different from times of the past. So, B2B selling in B2C, in the past was done through catalogs or sales reps, field reps that were, going in person to take orders, even to the point of using emails or phone calls to hand key in orders. And that's drastically changed with new technologies over time. And so when we look at the current B2B buyer, about 73% of B2B buyers in today's age group is around 20 to 35 years old. And these folks grew up with technology. They grew up with cell phones in their hands. They grew up with Google. They grew up with the ability to do research on their own, to conduct their own, product information gathering before they started making purchases. And so how these folks have been purchasing online in the B2C space as a regular consumer, they also want and expect that same sort of experience in the workplace when they're buying from the B2B side. And so this generation has really shifted the way that the purchasing journey needs to take place for B2B buyers and B2B companies. It's also changed the way that we need to build web stores. And so you're seeing more and more today B2B websites mimicking that B2C buying experience, where price is readily available on the page. You can see inventory, you can see spec sheets with really good photos and product descriptions. And all of this is providing that B2B buyer with the ability to self-serve and the ability to order 24/7, 365 without having to actually interact with a person. And so we really are seeing B2B companies needing to make this shift to B2C e-commerce experience so that they can stay competitive, they can stay relevant, and so they can be in a position where the buyers are, being able to purchase from them in the exact way that they want to.
So what are some of the B2C trends that you think will also become relevant in B2B in the near term?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I really think the personalized customer experience that you can get in the B2C e-commerce experience, we're going to start to really see in the B2B side. I think it's already sort of happening. These are things that include, personalized product recommendations, tailored pricing, a seamless user experience that's going to really have the look and feel of that B2C shopping interaction. I also think mobile e-commerce and mobile optimized B2B web stores is going to continue to grow and be super important. So mobile devices, especially for these B2B buyers that we're talking about, your phone is always with you. And so the importance of being able to have a web store that has access to your product catalogs, the ability to place orders, to see tracking information, super important for, field sales reps that are actually going out in the field. And instead of having to lug that big catalog with them, they can actually just use their mobile device and be able to, provide product information right on the spot while also taking an order, all at the same time. Another thing that I really think is growing is the concept of a customer portal. And this is really that platform that gives the customers or the buyers access to manage their account details, view order histories. They could quickly reorder their products, track their shipments, and it gives them this 24/7, 365 ability to understand everything that's been going on, with their buying history. And I think from the B2B side, this is a really important product. And oftentimes, I think B2B businesses who are maybe not ready for e-commerce yet, implementing a customer portal is that first step into that e-commerce process and getting your customers used to self-serving. So I actually think it's a really kind of like a gateway into the e-commerce space, these customer portals. I'd also say from the B2C side, around holidays and things, you see flash sales or Memorial Day sales or things like this. And I think you'll start to see these things happening in the B2B side as well. These web stores now have the ability to do upsells and downsells to tell you products that other customers liked. And I think it's going to be really important for businesses, especially if they have, an overflow of a certain product SKU that they want to get rid of quickly. They can utilize some of these B2C marketing techniques to be able to offload that product. Another big thing I think is important is SEO and even PPC or pay-per-click for B2B web stores. This is a really great tool for customer acquisition purposes. It's been used for marketing efforts, for any type of business in the past, but for B2B e-commerce, we're seeing a lot of our customers start to really focus on SEO and even PPC for that new customer acquisition, which all in all is just going to give them the ability to potentially, gain more customers and put more revenue in the company's pocket.
Yeah, and with so many different areas where things are evolving and getting more sophisticated or advanced in B2B, I can certainly see why. So your previous point of staying flexible especially as an SMB type of business, when it comes to your e-commerce strategy and not feeling like you have to be too locked down, perhaps, is so important because of all these different possibilities. Jay, I wanted to sort of turn to you here and see if you could expand on this in terms of any specific use cases, approaches that you're excited about, perhaps building on some of these capabilities that Megan was bringing up.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the pieces that we find often is the company that we're visiting with has already made the technological decision, the fast forward decision to modernize and move to Dynamics. And whether that's Business Central or F&O, really it is a factor of fast forwarding their business and enabling their team to be more efficient. In the space we work within, it really is enabling then your customers to do the same thing. Your customers can self-serve. They can find out information when they want and how they'd like to find it. The site can do sales 24/7, 365. One of our customers joked that the site cost itself is half the price of a customer service rep, and it never takes vacation. It never calls in sick, never moves on to a different company. It's always there and always enabling success for their business. And the way in which this really works is if you think of Amazon and the growth of Amazon over the years in the B2C space and now in the B2B space, Amazon looks at where there's a gap in efficiencies and they exploit it. Jeff Bezos said famously a while back, "Your margin is my opportunity." Now, I have no doubt many of you may sell on Amazon, or perhaps somebody you sell to is selling your products on Amazon, or worse yet, somebody that you compete with is selling on Amazon. And I think Amazon is an important place for representation in the market, but Amazon owns the customer. And what we believe is a healthy customer relationship begins with you owning the customer and enabling their success and enabling them to go about and do what they do best and not having to have the worry of an order. One of our most recent Business Central clients is a high-end meat distributor. And in the food and beverage space, as you know, it's usually a reorder overnight. They sell out of a filet mignon or a T-bone, and the chef needs to reorder it at 10 o'clock at night to get it into the restaurant before the next day. Well, chefs aren't going to sit down at the end of the day and go to their laptop or desktop. They're going to be on their phone. So offering, like Megan said, that mobile experience for the chef to reorder or maybe even make some modifications to a standing order and just allow that chef to worry about the next day's business in his restaurant and what menus he's going to come up with and the special of the day. And ordering shouldn't be one of those things they have to worry about. And we have so many examples of where we've enabled success. And I'd encourage everyone in the audience to seek out, there's a number of players that are doing this work, to see if there's a lookalike version of your company and you can see how their business has been impacted positively by making the leap to a customer portal or a full-fledged store.
Yeah, it's interesting whenever you talk about sort of non-traditional buying patterns, ordering from your phone while you're in the process of doing your work in a food services type of scenario or a deskless worker scenario. Those are always great stories. And as I kind of look across this space, those are the kind of stories that really are growing. I mean, for commerce, for other kinds of workloads, other kinds of computing workloads. So it's great to hear that kind of scenario. Yeah. Any other advice for Dynamics ERP customers when it comes to actually running an e-commerce project?
Fantastic question. And we'll go back to something we talked about at the very beginning is first, make sure you're defining what your needs are and what kind of a company you are. There are companies on the call here that maybe are a blend of Kylie Cosmetics that's B2C. They have a sales-driven approach to their revenue, and they have an ERP-driven approach to their revenue, based on maybe EDI orders. But define who you are and what your needs really are first, and then understand, with those needs, what are the expectations that you're going to have as a result of getting something implemented. Lots of choices out there. I think if you go into AppSource, there's well over 20 or so companies that do what we do. And really, that's a great starting point. But at the end of the day, each one of those may only be a connector between, say, Magento and your ERP. Other ones may be really well suited if you're in the Fortune 2000 range and you've got $100,000 to spend and you want high degrees of customization. And others maybe would be greatly suited by having an out-of-the-box solution. And I'm not to say here that ours is the finest or the best, but what we do is that out-of-the-box opportunity to get started. Inside of the space of a Dynamics ERP customer, I do think it's important that you're leveraging the investment that you've made in your ERP and use that as the single source of truth for your business. So you don't have a silo of marketing or a silo of sales, a silo perhaps of product. You can have a consolidated approach on how all of those can be brought together. And that's what we and some of our competitors do in the space. But one of the final things I would highly recommend is not just see a demo and look, it's software. Every demo is going to look great and everyone has flawless everything, you name it. But actually go a little bit deeper and think about what would an ROI look like for this product? What would it mean if we did implement it? And not necessarily we're going to let go of a customer service rep, but one of our clients is in the business of wrapping trucks for deliveries. What they looked at is they could double their revenue, which is their projection in the next 5 years, without adding another customer service rep. So consider the ROI of that. We actually have a way in which a client or a partner can easily go in and calculate an ROI. It's free and available for anyone that would like to use it. And I'd highly recommend going through that exercise. Most of the instances of a ERP-driven e-commerce solution, it should not be a cost center. It should actually be a profit center. It actually ought to find ways to make you money. And the final thing that we do, and I know some of our competitors do, but why not go all the way through to see what is it going to look like? What's an actual journey starting from a prospect or a customer searching online for the product, how they're going to find it. As Megan talked about, the SEO or maybe even a paid-per-click ad, they're going to get to your store or your customer portal. And then from there, go through the whole buyer journey. What's it going to look like when they purchase and how the site's going to be configured. Going back to the butcher example, the chef that's buying from the butcher, the chef just wants to know what's in stock and out of stock and know that what he or she can get delivered the next day will be at the restaurant. And that is a real life thing that we do recommend you consider of going through what your customer's buyer's journey is going to look like, all the way to the point where, because of our instance and many others, it's ERP driven. It goes into the ERP. It's not a hand keyed order. And in some instances, some of our customers comment that the next time a human touches the order is literally when it's getting picked and shipped. And we think that's an important piece to consider. There's no shortage of ads by Shopify these days, no shortage of Adobe, who owns Magento, promoting those products. And they're phenomenal products for the right use cases. We seriously recommend just having to look around and understanding and educating yourself within your company about what's going to be the best way to go forward. In the end, look, everyone wants to buy software, not shelfware. And in today's modern economics mean that software as a service is a great route to go. But that software as a service should, in my mind, and then what we're basing our company upon, is have a fixed fee project, having a price that is publicly available. We're earnestly trying to democratize commerce for the small and medium businesses and allow them to compete with Amazon. So they don't give their margin to Amazon, they keep it themselves.
Very interesting. Well, Jay, Megan, thank you so much for taking the time today. Really learned a lot. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you so much, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks once again to Jay and Megan for joining, and this message from commercebuild. commercebuild offers ERP-integrated e-commerce and customer portal solutions for our Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central B2B and B2C users at an affordable price. From SMB to enterprise, with fast and fixed-fee implementations without long-term contracts. See the show notes for a video on e-commerce success and a link to schedule a call with commercebuild. And that's it for this episode. If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me by email, jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. You can follow us for all of our updates on LinkedIn or on Twitter. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.